Hi, everybody. I'm Bridget Truxillo with Protective Wellness, and I have with me today Jason Hoschouer, which I like taking my time as I pronounce that. Thank you. Since I started my business, I have connected with so many fascinating people and so many people that I think have something very unique to offer to law enforcement and to all first responders. And so when I say law enforcement, all first responders, because I think it's a very similar world. And I'll say law enforcement or cops or police, because that's the world I come from and know. But I am certainly not excluding what Jason has to offer to the entire first responder world. The title of this conversation is called Rich Cop, Poor Cop. And I think there are a lot of cops out there that potentially maybe are already living life where they've just resigned themselves to the fact that the job is so hard in so many ways. And that includes the fact that they make no money, that they don't make enough money, that they're probably just going to have to deal with debt or let it get to the point where it's just so bad that they got to figure out some extra overtime to work for a while. But maybe they feel like they're just going to live in debt forever. Maybe they feel like they're just never really going to have the things that they want to have, or that they can't have the things they want to have without working their lives away. But one of the things that I will talk about a lot in every part of wellness training I do is that cops have to, quote unquote, come down. You have to proactively plan how you take care of yourself. And if you're always working, you can't do that. So one of the reasons I loved about having this conversation with Jason is that he can help cops figure out how to not live their entire lives working, not having to do overtime every single day, so that you can take care of yourself, so that you can proactively plan how you want to be happy, what you do with your personal time, so that you're not just a one-faceted cop life person. Jason, I was on your podcast a couple months ago or something, and through stalking you, but as we led up to that, I listened to your podcast. And one of the things that struck me so early on is that right away was when I went to your website and I saw financial stuff that you do. And number one, I love that you do have the interest outside of work. And maybe that took a little while to come about, but that's one of the things I did love about the work that you do. And something that I want to, you and I will do a deeper dive on this later in the training that I will have that will come out later this year called Advanced Wellness Training. So today is a somewhat lighter version of what we will be able to offer to people later. But for now, it's a conversation around some topics that relate to finances for cops. You've been talking to cops about this for a while, working with cops. I know we had earlier, you and I mentioned it, that if you just bring up the word budget to me, even still, I just don't want to talk to you anymore. But you deal with this a lot. So I guess if we can start, or if there's somewhere else you want to do a deep dive, or before we do that, can we say what your business is?
Sure. It's GPS Financial Coaching.
And you do that for cops?
I do. My niche is really aimed towards law enforcement, but because my best friend and co-host of the podcast, What's Your Emergency, is a firefighter, and I grew up in a firehouse. My dad's a retired firefighter. Any first responders really is my wheelhouse. I know particularly law enforcement. After 23 years of law enforcement, I know what it's like to walk in those shoes and to feel the financial pressures that they do. And that's easily translatable to fire and EMS as well.
So I guess let's talk budget, because
let's do that. See, I get excited. You're like, oh God, that sounds terrible.
I'm like, sure, there's things I could do a deep dive on that you'd be thinking, oh, please let her stop talking soon. But like workers' comp, let's have a conversation about workers' comp. Said no one ever but me, probably, unless you have a problem with your workers' comp, because I am an attorney, sidebar, in case somebody doesn't know that about me. I'm a former deputy sheriff. I've been an attorney for a long time. But when you and I first started, after we were on the podcast and you and I started talking about doing this training together, one of the things I loved about your story is that you budgeted yourself into a debt-free place. And so I shouldn't taint the wonderfulness of budgeting with what I said, because I need to hear what you have to say also.
Well, but budgeting comes with baggage, right? When you think about it, people have this image in their mind of straitjacket, like you can't get out of it. It's restrictive, it's uncomfortable, it's debilitating. And my perspective on it is that budgeting is the most liberating thing you can do with your money ever, because it is you. This is a famous John Maxwell quote. A budget is nothing more than telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. At the end of the month, when all your money has come in and gone out and you've paid your bills and you're a responsible individual, and you look at your bank balance and you think to yourself, where the hell did my money go? That's reactive. I teach people to be proactive, like law enforcement. We're proactive. We're not firefighters. No offense, firefighters. No, I'm sorry. Offense, firefighters. They are a reactive entity, whereas law enforcement, we are, at least until recent societal issues, we encourage to be proactive. What I do is teach people how much money is coming in and then planning for where it's going to go. And the whole exercise really is incredibly liberating, because when we first started doing it, we found $500 a month that was just disappearing. So I've got a brand new podcast called Badges and Budgets, and I just talked about how you have a relationship with money. And it's a weird thing to think about, but I equated it to, if you're not paying attention to your money, like if you're not paying attention to a spouse or a significant other and you're ignoring them, they're going to leave you someday. And your money is exactly the same way. It's just, if you're not paying attention to it, giving it no direction, it's gone. It's out the door. And we found that $500, that's $6,000 a year. I don't know about you or the audience, that who doesn't want an extra $6,000? It was there. We just weren't paying attention to it. And the budget showed us how to take control of our finances and tell our money what to do and where to go. That's all it is.
I love that, because in what I do for my wellness basic training is that, which will be coming out soon, shameless plug, is it starts off, every cop knows what are the problems that you feel in law enforcement. One of them is that you feel acted upon a lot, because you can't change what the job of law enforcement is. You're going to deal with a lot of crap, and you're going to see some really awful things. You can't change that. It is what it is. And if people are saying, oh, well, I can't change the job. But what you can do is you can change how you handle that, what your life is like, how you're reacting and responding to things. And so that's part of why I knew having this conversation with you would fall so well into that. This is wellness training. This is another part of life where you're able to figure out how you can feel like you're more in control of what's happening. And that's where I think any little bit that you can do as a law enforcement officer or first responder to feel like you have control over your life, the less affected you will be by the things that you have no control over. So you're going to see the crap, you're going to see awful, and yes, that will affect you. But just imagine how hard it would be to figure out your money if you're doing nothing to pay attention to it. You're doing nothing to pay attention to your mental health. You're eating like crap. You don't care if you sleep. You're not drinking enough water. You have no idea what's happening to your finances. And like, I'm going to go buy that car, or that truck, or that gun, and then you're just layering it on. And so, I also think it's the same thing I say with wellness, which is that it's little things that you do all the time that matter, and this little bit each day. So I guess in terms of a budget, to me, it's that it doesn't have to be this big, overwhelming, oh my gosh, I'm boxed in by this spreadsheet that I can't look at anything else. I can't go anywhere. It's not that. So I guess I have this note here to say, like, and maybe we just covered it, but is there anything else to say? I guess like, one of the reasons budgets felt so ugly to me before, not today, is that you felt like you couldn't live life. It'd be like, I'm on a diet and I can never go out to eat or have a good time with my friends or family ever again. No, that's not the case. And so what is the budget not?
It's interesting. The budget changes depending on your life circumstance. So for 28 months between August of 2009 and December of 2011, our budget looked way different than it does today, because during that time, my wife and I were very intentional, and we paid off over $77,000 in debt. We didn't go on vacation. We didn't eat out. We sacrificed a ton. I worked a boatload of overtime, and we kicked some serious butt for 28 months. In retrospect, a very finite and brief amount of time. Once you get out of debt and you can start investing either in your retirement or in college savings for your kids or saving for a vacation, whatever that happens to be, that looks a lot different than having to send $1,100 a month in car payments like I used to have to do, thousands of dollars in student loan debt, and all of these things. What a budget is not, it is not restrictive. It is not set in stone. It is very flexible. It is very customizable. What I tell people is I help them create a personalized spending plan. Here's the secret behind it. I don't care how much you make. I don't care where you live. I don't care what your debt load is. You are not a unique and beautiful snowflake. Your circumstances aren't,
What?
you're not this special outlier. You make how much you make. You've made decisions to get where you are. Wrong or indifferent, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. That's the point behind my business name, GPS. There are two things that a GPS has to know: where you want to go, but more importantly, where you are.
Are you now?
It doesn't ask, hey, where were you 10 minutes ago? Nobody cares. And if you're trying
why'd
to get
you take that route? Yeah,
exactly.
It doesn't ask
that was dumb. No, not at all. If you spend your whole time trying to get to point B ahead of you, but you're looking behind you, you're going to crash that car, and that's not going to be good for anybody. So a budget is not judgmental. It does not guide you or mock you. If anything, it instills confidence. It shows you what is important to you, because if you want to know what your loves are in your entire life, what means the most to you, pull up your checking account right now on your online bank and look where your money's spent. That is what is important to you.
You've shared this before. It's not exclusive to this conversation, that you and your wife got yourself out of $70,000 of debt. And you said that was 28 months. And I feel like some people could hear that and be in a similar situation, or better or worse, and think, holy cow, that's a lot. I can't stick with that. But in essence, what you're doing is just no different than saying, I want to run a marathon or a 5K or a 10K, whatever, and you've never done that. Let's say what you want to do. You want to run a 5K and you've never run before. You could go to Google and type train for 5K for beginners. And it's going to give you a plan. And you're going to know that on day one, you're going to walk. And in however long, let's say it's a 6-month plan, that in month 1, you're going to do more. And in month 3, you're going to do more. But that by the time you get to the race, I've done a lot. And that for you and your wife to say, oh, so you're like, that's really good work. And that even while 28 months might sound like a lot, and I ask you this, at some point you get to the point where, yes, you're sacrificing, but you can also visually see it's working.
Yeah,
right?
We actually had a chart on the fridge that would, like when your local school board is trying to raise money and they've got the thermometer, and the fuller it gets, red fills up. We did that with our debt. We kept a running tally. The 5K is a great analogy, because you don't start by throwing thousands of dollars at your debt, probably. Our first debt we paid off, we financed a bed for our then toddler. She was 2, and we financed a $600 bed. Today, I just go buy a freaking $600 bed. It's not that big a deal, but it really allowed us to visualize our progress. And when we paid off that first debt, it was like, ooh, little shot of adrenaline. It was like, oh man, we just did that. And we did that in like 6 weeks. Oh, okay. That's interesting. And we told ourselves we weren't going to sell our car or our travel trailer because we love them both so much. And then we started seeing the debt get reduced. And I was like, how much do I really like that car? As it turns out, not very much, because we sold that sucker, and we sold our travel trailer and used the proceeds of that to pay off my wife's student loans. There's no vacation that makes me feel as good as not having to write a check to Sally Mae every freaking month.
Yeah, Nothing
kidding. Feels that good. I love Hawaii. I love the tropics and the mountains and all that, but no, thank you. I would rather sit at home and chill, and knowing that every dime that comes into this house, with the exception of our mortgage, stays with us, and we tell it where to go, instead of somebody knocking on our door and saying, yeah, I need that $542 and 10 cents, please.
I agree with you. When I was at the sheriff's office, before I started at the sheriff's office, I had gone on a trip to New Zealand by myself, which, even though I worked 2 jobs, including loading trucks at UPS before the crack of dawn to pay for some of that, when I got back, I had not paid for all of that. And then I started at the sheriff's office, where I was making obviously no money. And at some point I decided that I think against Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that's hence the name of this episode, but also Smart Women Finish Rich. I read that when I was at the sheriff's office on the SWAT team, and figured out how I was going to make $1 million by whatever day. Also, I got my grandmother at the time, which makes me sound like a 6-year-old, but who cares, to co-sign a loan from her bank because they knew her. And all that did was it consolidated some debt I had and probably the credit card stuff and a much lower interest rate. And then I just aggressively paid that down. And so my aggressive payments made much more of a dent with that consolidation. And there's so many different ways to do that now. The SoFi or whatever, it's Sophie, there's a state. Wasn't that where the Super Bowl was? Anyway.
Yeah, LA.
So is that how you say it? Sophie? SoFi?
SoFi. It's
Doesn't
SoFi.
matter. Thanks.
I say Sophie just because I used to have a dog named Sophie, but it is SoFi.
Yeah, well, tomato. And I aggressively paid that down. I got rid of a car to get a different car so that I could not have that debt. And then I decided to go to law school, and that's not free. So
no, it is not.
Much longer. And my husband's always says, "Oh, that's good debt." I'm like, who says that? I know there's like good debt and bad debt, subsidized versus non-subsidized.
Completely disagree. There is no good debt, in my opinion.
That's not how it feels to me. Yeah, that's not how it felt to me for a very long time after paying that. My point of saying that is, again, it's tiny habits. The thing that I talk about a lot is tiny habits and setting yourself up on a budget. You think like tiny, how can I pay down my debt if I'm making just tiny payments? Well, if you come up with the right plan, are you paying for it now? Probably not. Are you paying it down now? Maybe not. Like you said, look at something and find another $500. How many little subscriptions do you have that you probably forgot about and don't need anymore? There's even an app for that to help you find the subscriptions you don't need. And if you save yourself the $120 of subscriptions that you don't really need and start putting that an extra $120 towards something, that does start to make a difference. And it's the tiny habits that you do on a regular basis that every day you do them. Number one, that's compounding. So number one, it makes you feel good you're doing it. And it's what I call micro successes. If you get these little micro successes all the time, then you start to feel happier with that, more in control of that. And you say proactive, and it just starts to, you think, I can do this. It does matter. It is having an effect. And that's what I think what you're saying and coaching people on is so, again, you're helping them. You also are going to help bring happiness to the lives of 10,000 police officers like I am. So
that is certainly the goal, but I will front load it by saying I was a motor officer for 13 years. And towards the end of my career, I was an FTO. I've taught at the academy, and I was very straightforward with my trainees and with recruits. We, as police officers, we are indoctrinated at the academy level that you're not going to make a lot of money. You're going to get crapped on by the powers that be and by the city or the county or the state or whatever. We go in with such an absolute garbage attitude, and it's taught to us by guys like me eventually that have been the senior man or woman. And now here you are just dumping on these people. I used to write for Police One, and I wrote about how I made $100,000 one year and I was still living paycheck to paycheck. And some dude in like Alabama was like, man, if I was making $100,000, I'd be living high on the hog, and good for you, man. But your mortgage isn't $3,500 a month. You don't have almost $1,200 a month in car payments. You don't have 3 kids. You want to talk about the price of gas, the difference between there and California? Holy cow. I traveled to my dad's. It's insane. It was $1 less in Washington than it was in California. And there, the national average is $4.70. I'm like, you guys are adorable. That sounds, I would love to pay $4.70. There's places in California where it's $7. And what I tend to tell some of my clients, usually, because if you're married, I will not work with you unless both spouses are on board. I'm not playing that. It is a waste of time. Most of the time, if it's the husband is the cop, because I know how he thinks, and I'll say things that the wife is thinking, and she'll just cross her arms, look over at him, and be like, know what it's like. And what I tell people is, quit your bitching. Stop complaining about how everything is wrong. All you're doing is swimming in this negativity, and it's a self-fulfilling machine. Knock it off. Knock it off. I'm not the kind of coach that's going to say, it's going to be okay, sweetie. You're going to be just fine. Let's all hug it out. No, quit complaining, go to work, do what needs to get done, come home, take care of your family like the leader you are supposed to be. Stop complaining about, I've worked so much overtime. I deserve a new truck. So let me get this straight. You work a 40-hour overtime month, and now you have to go into $70,000 of debt because you want to go hunting with the guys? Knock it off. Or irresponsible. Stop doing that. It so frustrates me. But the good news is that when you create this plan, and yes, you have to make sacrifices. No, you don't deserve that $70,000 truck. Surprise, you deserve to take care of your family for generations. You do this correctly. And then the good news is eventually, if you want to buy a $70,000 truck, just go buy it. Don't finance it, by the way. Go buy it, because eventually, someday, you're going to be able to do that. Now, let's think about somebody that's making 30 grand. And let's say their time of work is 30 years. God help them. 30 years is a long time. But if you're making 30 grand, you're going to make 900. That's almost $1 million in your lifetime. You've made almost $1 million in your lifetime. That's assuming, by the way, that you never get a raise, you never get shift differential or bonus pay for your position. You are a complete dump truck if you never get a raise. That's just, I don't care where you work or who you work for. If you stay stagnant in your salary for 30 years, you are a dump truck. Sorry, there is so much potential there. And if you can harness that potential and create that personalized plan, you're going to be happier at home. You're going to be happier at work eventually. Because that, like I said, that work, it ain't easy. That 28 months that I spent, we had a child born at the beginning of it. She was our second daughter. And I feel like I missed the first 2 years of her life because I was gone so much. Now I'm retired and they're like, you need to go somewhere.
Don't you have a job, Dad? Come on. This is what we're talking about right now, but the mindset that we're taught going into it of why cops or first responders aren't usually good with money. I feel like I touched on that at the beginning, but part of it too is, in my experience, that there are certain toys that cops like to buy. And when I was on SWAT team, so those guys were the epitome of it, buy more guns. Or like you said, like the truck. Or where I worked, it was that all these guys had these boats they would buy to go fishing. But it's that there are all these things that they can buy. And I also get that you want to feel like that if you want to buy something, you can buy something. And that by not buying it, you feel like you woe is me, or gosh, this is just so hard or not fair. And I really want these things. I see other people doing it, and why are they doing it and I can't? But like you said, you don't know everybody's circumstances. And just because somebody that you might know through work, it seems like they're getting this thing and not talking to you about how far they had to stretch themselves to get it. You never know other people's stories, ever. I mean, the closest people I know, I still don't know their whole stories. Or you have to have a lot of conversations with people to really understand what motivates them to do the things they do. You don't know all these people's stories. You don't know what motivates them, and don't compare yourself to them. And you probably don't need 82 machine guns.
Probably not. Although if you do have those and the apocalypse hits, I'm going to come knock on your door and be like, can I please come in?
Just let me know offline where you live so that I can head that way.
Exactly.
Because I know all this Ukraine stuff happening, I mentioned to somebody the other day, I was like, I'm going to tell you right now, if they start dropping nukes over in Ukraine, I'm getting out of Houston, fourth largest city in the United States. I'm getting far from here.
Hell, I live near San Francisco. I'm heading for the hills too.
Get the heck out. I'd love to finish this with go beyond the mindset that you might have been taught starting, and hopefully through things like this that can change. Is that why first responders they're just not good with money, but it doesn't have to be that way.
No, it really doesn't. And it is a huge mindset issue. And I'll even capitalize on what you said about buying something. Let's use a boat, for example. I'm going to buy this. I bought this boat. Did you pay cash for it? Because if you're sending money every month, guess what? You didn't buy it. You financed it. Those are two distinctly different financial experiences. When we were early, even before we started getting out of debt, it was like 2006. And we went to this is so stupid. We went to the travel trailer show, and there was a great deal on last year's model, but wouldn't you know it, it's only good during the show. And the question that we asked, my wife and I, we asked ourselves wasn't how much is it straight up? It wasn't how much are the payments? The question we asked was, how much overtime do I have to work that we can afford this? And that is such a poor cop mindset. Is such a poor cop mindset. Now, if we go to something like that, it'll be how much does it cost? Period. If I can't pay cash for it, we don't buy it. I haven't had a credit card in 11 years. I haven't had a car payment in 11 years. No, 12 years since the credit card. It was 2010. I will never have one again. If I can't afford something, I won't buy it. But last year, I was off on injury, and my wife said, I really want a Peloton. Those really neat, fancy at-home bicycles. Those things are not cheap. But as it happened, we had some money set aside, and I said, okay. So we just bought it. That We bought it. I didn't finance it. I went in, I gave him my debit card is different than a credit card. It's all about that mindset though, of changing up instead of saying I afford the payment versus can I just buy it? Now that involves a lot of discipline. It is not something that changes overnight. I used to go to Best Buy every Tuesdays because that's when new music, new movies, and new games came out because I'm a large freaking child. And I would buy, I want this, I want that, I want the other thing. And I would just get it. 90 days, same as cash, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? When you don't pay the bill, it's not the same as cash. Now you're paying 22% on your stupid decision. And I made plenty of stupid decisions. I know I still make dumb decisions, but not surrounding money anymore. It's just by virtue of changing how I approach both with my head and my heart, how I relate with me. Money is nothing more than a tool. A hammer is a tool. I can use it to build a school or I can beat your brains in with it. The hammer doesn't care. It is amoral. It has no dog in the hunt, if you will. It's just a tool. And that's what money is. And when we change how we think about it, it changes how we feel. And then we can make changes beyond just the four walls of your home. You can start changing the world. There's really nothing you can't do if you get your finances in order. You can't do all that stuff when you're stressed out, working 40 hours of overtime every month, fighting with the spouse about whatever is finance related in your world. The kids want to do traveling soccer. The kids want to play the piano. They want to do all these things. Well, that costs money. And if you're $80,000 or $30,000 or however much your debt level is, you have to look in your kids' eye and tell them no for a period of time until you can get it dialed in, because they will watch what you do and you can change the trajectory of your family if you get your stuff together today.
I say a lot that by focusing on yourself and focusing on your wellness and doing the things that are intrinsically making you happy, regardless of what's happening around you, is that it's making you a leader in your own life. And that when you do that, it does impact everyone around you. I don't even think I do a good enough. I have 3 kids. They're almost 11, 9, and 4. I feel like I haven't, for example, done a good enough job of teaching my daughters, that was my oldest 2, about money. I don't let them just go out when they get money. I just cut it away and they forget about it, which is great because they're not wasting it on something. They literally forget about the money they have in their wallets. So I could be doing something different with it, or teaching. There's these new cards they give to kids, which they want is crazy. That's a whole separate episode. Having kids earn money. I'll say, if you do these things, I'll pay you. And then they forget that they could be making money. And then I just get tired of nagging them about more things to do. But going back to what I said, because I feel like this is what people could really benefit from having a conversation with you or seeing if you can help, is I would be willing to bet that the majority of people listening to this think there's no way I could be able to pay cash for a car. There's no way I could pay cash for a Peloton. By the way, if you go into the Peloton place, they're like, I just want to pay cash. I feel like people in the store are like, wait, what? No, I mean, here's your,
you want to do what?
Sure, here's your payment plan. Oh, it's like $35 a month. Yeah, I get it. I just want to pay. No. I don't. What do you mean you just want to pay? Here's the payment plan, because you do the payment plan and you have to pay for the app for the thing. So they really get you.
It's a subscription. It's just like going to the gym every month. You just do it, like in my case, in my garage. That's where the thing lives, and we pay like $50 a month or something. But I'll tell you, if it ever came time that we needed to trim the fat off of our budget, subscriptions is the first place I'm going. I don't need Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon Prime. I don't need all 3, but I'm at a place in my life now where I'm like, you know what? I have this option and I'm fulfilling all these other financial buckets. There's nothing wrong with me binge watching Formula One racing on Netflix. That's totally okay. I have freaking earned that by the sacrifices that we made those many moons ago.
Yes. So I know you have I'll say it for you, the 5-day budgeting challenge. So 5 days, everybody can do 5 days. Come on. So everybody does their New Year's resolution for 5 days. Everybody makes it to January 5th. Come on. So what is the 5-day budgeting challenge?
So initially I had set it up as an email deal where you get an email and a video every day. And I've since moved it to a different platform. So I say 5 days, but there's 5 steps. And I really encourage you to do 1 step a day, because some of them involve mind work, a tiny bit of math. It's okay, firefighters. It's just a little bit of math. We'll get you a big crayon. You'll be fine. So what it is, there are 5 steps that at the end of these 5 days, you will have a much better grasp on what budgeting is, how to start it, how to start looking at your debt and compiling it, and how to take all of these concepts and create your very own personalized spending plan, budget. And when you have that plan on paper, you can start forecasting, okay, so there's something that I call the OWL, the outstanding warrant list, and that is your debts. And when you start hunting them down one at a time, there's a very calculated, tactical, because we all love tactical way to attack your debt. And what I encourage people to do is you don't take a shotgun to a 50-yard AR course because you're not going to hit the target. You need an AR. And that's what the OWL represents, is an AR solution for an AR problem. And the whole concept is to simply find out what your lowest debt is and attack that one. Pay minimums on everything else and just go for it. And then when you pay that first one off, the second one, now you've got your two minimums of the first two that have been added together. And then you go after that one, et cetera, et cetera. And that's one of the things we talk about in the budgeting challenge. If you're interested in it, it's totally free. I think all the videos cumulatively, maybe an hour. So you're looking at, there's 5 of them, 10-ish, 12, maybe a 1 or 2 15-minute ones kind of thing. And it walks you through, like the first day is called List It. And that's where you have to sit down and compile an exhaustive list of all of your financial obligations, everything from your rent or your mortgage to groceries to gas to whatever, wherever you're spending your money. And that can be really overwhelming because people are like, I don't know how much I spend on that. Who does? Your freaking bank. So go to your online bank and print out 3 months worth of spending. It's going to take some time to literally write down all of these things or highlight them, put them in a spreadsheet, whatever, however you want to nerd out on it, knock yourself out. And then from there, it goes to day 2 is count it. And that's where you count all of the things coming in, all of your income. And the strategies about that are, I go more in depth on the challenge, of course. But if you simply go to gpsfinancialcoaching.com, on the very front page, there's a blue button that says 5-day budgeting challenge. Click on that. It takes you right to it. You can sign up. It's totally free. And you can learn about how to get from where you are to where you want to be. Not everybody needs a financial coach like me. But what I have found is that a lot of cops, we're not good at asking for help, first off. Secondly, we're not good at admitting that we don't know something. We want to be in charge all the time.
What?
I get it. Yeah. Shocking. I know.
Shocking.
But here's the thing. I'm a financial coach that did your job for 23 years. I know what you're going through. I know how you feel. I can guide you from where you are to where you want to be for a period of time. And then Daddy Bird just boot you out the nest and say, good luck and God bless, because you're going to crush it now. And that's the nice thing about the podcast as well, is I offer these, like I recorded before you and I got on today about sinking funds. What is a sinking fund? I've done episodes on explaining what compound interest is. I've got a couple about your first and second steps on getting out of debt. My first episode was called Cops Aren't Good with Money. And that's a hell of a way to start a new show. Come out swinging. Tell me I suck with my money. Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate that. But
truth hurts, though.
It does. It absolutely. It's so funny. Is us as police officers, we're so good at pointing out the foibles and shortcomings of other people in society. Y'all looked in the mirror at all? Because all the issues you're facing in your personal life, that's your fault. That's your responsibility. Stop blame shifting and telling us that, oh, it's my wife, it's my kid, it's the job, it's my sergeant. Start taking control of what you can take control of. You're not going to change your sergeant. Of course not. But you can change the way you respond. I talk with my kids about this all the time, responding versus reacting. If you're reacting, you're giving the power to somebody else. If you're responding, then you are taking the power of whatever they're trying to influence you as and representing yourself, your family, your values, and what it is they're saying. Sometimes you got to eat a crap sandwich. I get it. It sucks. All done it. We're all going to continue to have to do it from time to time. But it's how we respond to it that really is the measure of your character.
Yeah, I totally agree that within finding happiness in your life, it's about, it does start with sometimes a very hard look inward. I think always, not sometimes, it always is a very intensive look inward. Sometimes that's hard, sometimes it's not. A lot of times there'll be something that comes from that. And there's a lot of emotion tied into finances, especially if you're married.
Oh yeah,
so,
absolutely.
But just because it's hard doesn't mean you should ignore it. And so I think that there's so much more. I'm so glad that you've started the podcast, because I think that gives people little digestible nuggets. So I will put all that in the notes with the links so that somebody can just, if you're watching this, you could just click it and take you right there. You know, I don't know how many podcasts you're going to end up doing at one time by the time this is all said and done.
I love podcasting. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, you're good at it.
Appreciate it.
All right, so I will definitely link everybody to the website for the 5-day budgeting challenge, or the 5-step. Let's just throw tactical in there as much as we can. Tactical.
Not sponsored by 511. Sorry. But I know you guys you always wear your off-duty 511 pants. God forbid you just wear friggin' Levi's.
In Florida, it's the 511 pants with a G-shirt, the performance fishing gear shirt. That's not church wear, fellas. Change your shirt.
That's awesome.
All right. Thank you so much, Jason. Like I said, for everybody, make sure you're following along with Protective Wellness, because Jason and I will do more deep dive training on finances later this year. And you'll be able to sign up for that. In the meantime, listen to Jason on badges and budgets, and I'll give you the link for that free download. And of course, Jason's always available for you to reach out to him. Is that the best way to get to you, through the website, Jason?
It is. There's a text option at the bottom right. You can just text me directly. Of course, you can always reach me via email, coachjason@gpsfinancialcoaching.com. And if you're old school and you want to just give me a freaking phone call, you can do that too.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I know. I'm going to give you my number.
Phone call.
925-515-5559. That's 925-515-5559. Goes right to my cell phone. And if I don't answer, I'm going to
post it.
Knock yourself out. I send it out on my email every time I send out an update. And that's how I sign off the badges and budgets as well.
I feel like people are afraid to make a phone call. The other day, I was wanting to ask somebody a question, and I was like, I'm going to text her and tell her I'm calling. And then I was like, you know what I'm going to do? Something wild and crazy. I'm just going to call. Madness. And I did.
You monster.
And I left this thing called a voicemail.
What?
And she got back to me with a text, but still.
Wow. What technology. What an exciting time to be alive.
I know. It was wild. It was a wild and crazy day. I just picked up the phone and I just called.
That's insane. I'm amazed. Absolutely amazed.
All right, Jason, thank you. And everybody's going to call you like crazy and text you. And I'm glad they do.
Fantastic.
All right. Thank you.
Cheers.
So that was my conversation with Jason. I hope you really enjoyed it. He is so fun to talk to. Every time I talk to him, I always laugh, and I hope that you did as well. Make sure to reach out to Jason or me with any questions, because he is always available, as am I, to help in any way that we can for the law enforcement community or anybody in the first responder community. Make sure to subscribe to this channel if you like this, because I will be posting more conversations with subject matter experts, just fun or funny people, all of it with information that I hope will bring more comfort, ease, and happiness to your lives. Share it if you like it, and make sure to follow along with Protective Wellness. Very soon, and perhaps already out, depending on when you watch this, we will be releasing a new course called Wellness Basic Training. And to find out more information on that, you can go to myprotectwellness.com. Sign up for the newsletter so that you can get more information on the trainings and conversations that we have. Now is the time for you to be happier. Find out how to do that by going to myprotectivewellness.com. Click on the free download that we have and sign up for our newsletter so that I can share all the information and training so that you can take action on happiness today.